we can acknowledge the moments that we mentor, or we acknowledge the moments that we've been mentored, and we thank the people that have mentored us, it makes us do it more, and it ties it back to legacy so that we then can feel our impact.
That's Dr. Deborah Heiser. She's an applied developmental psychologist/coach who spent the last 8 years helping others witness the transformational power of mentorship through her organization, the Mentor Project. She's also the author of the book, The Mentorship Edge. So you'll learn 1, the fundamental human need that mentorship fulfills. 2, why most struggle to find mentors and the simple fix. And 3, the unlikely places where you can find more mentors. And if you want a quick summary write-up of the actual takeaways, I recommend you sign up for the free Golden Nugget email newsletter, which you can find at awesomeatyourjob.com. I'm Pete Makaitis. This is How to Be Awesome at Your Job. And now, here's Deborah. Deborah, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm excited to chat about mentorship, but I understand that you currently have a 21-year-old mentor. What's the story here?
So I am 57. I'm a Gen Xer. And I decided that I wanted to try out social media for the next big thing that I'm working on and to get some word out there. So I asked if this person who's 21 could mentor me. I didn't say, hey, can you be my mentor? But we talked and he agreed. And so he's been mentoring me for 2.5 months now. And it's amazing to be in the position of a mentee. It made me have a whole new perspective.
That's super. Well, could you share with us what's a social media insight you've picked up from this 21-year-old phenom?
That it is not as easy as it looks. That there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of thought that has to go into it. Even the things that are supposed to look really completely off the cuff, they're generally not. So that was really a new insight for me.
Understood. Thank you. Yeah, I think I'd heard Mr. Beast, top YouTuber, say, people are surprised all the time when they learn just how much tremendous work and effort goes into these videos. We're not just a bunch of folks goofing around. There's huge sets and teams and productions.
You know, it wasn't just the work, right? I had to learn from him the work. I had to learn the culture. So the very first live stream he put me on TikTok, I was getting all of these comments that were coming into the feed, like, UNC was one of them. I was thinking the person was talking about the university. No, it's UNC. It means I'm old and like outdated. So it was really funny to learn about how people perceived me in the Gen Z population and how I needed to learn the culture and learn what was relevant to people that were outside of the Gen X age group.
Oh, shucks. You know what? I guess I'm learning something too. I thought UNC, I knew it was short for uncle, and it meant that this person is older. But I had sort of hoped and thought it might have had affectionate connotations, but you're telling me it doesn't. Okay.
No. And I learned that without knowing that. He had to explain that to me. And so that was kind of funny.
I just remember Brian Johnson is often called the immortal Unc. And I thought that was endearing, but I guess it's not. Okay, I'm learning. Well, so I think that's a nice little lesson in terms of mentorship, in terms of the things maybe you thought maybe you don't. And you get that wisdom from different perspectives and engaging in different kinds of folks. So you've been in this game for a while. We got the book, The Mentorship Edge, which we're chatting about. You are the CEO and founder of the Mentor Project. So could you maybe kick us off with anything that's particularly striking or surprising for folks when you're teaching about mentorship and they go, whoa, seriously, for real?
Everyone is a mentor and you just don't realize it. So most people think that mentorship is for work. And it can be and is. And that's a great place to look for mentorship or to become a mentor. But mentorship is something that's in our families that we've been doing forever. If you subscribe to any religion, that's passed down through mentorship, centuries. We're never going to remember Bob the accountant, but we remember what religion and the traditions and the values that we have in our family that get passed down. And we often take that for granted, but that's mentorship. All of that is the family traditions at every holiday that you engage in, that's mentorship. So we're doing all of this, and we just don't give credit to the grandmas and grandpas out there who are doing this every day, or to ourselves when we say, this value means something to me, I'm going to pass it on. So that's a big surprise to a lot of people. They think that mentorship is saved for someone with an advanced degree or a specific title. And really, it's not. Everybody is always mentoring and they are being mentored, and we just don't always realize it.
Okay, so if we're always mentoring and we're always being mentored, and you mentioned some of those contexts, what exactly is your definition for a mentorship then?
Mentorship actually has 5 components to it. So it has to start with the developmental. I just want to say that we're developmentally, just like walking and talking is a developmental life stage, we are developmentally programmed to want to give back. And so it's like a developmental milestone. So it's something that we should be expecting to do. So it first starts with generativity. And generativity is where we have a desire to give a bit of ourselves to somebody else without expecting anything in return. We're all doing that. If a friend calls and says, hey, can I pick your brain? You don't say buzz off. You say, of course. We're always doing this. And the reason we do this, engage in generativity, is because we like that a little piece of us lives on in somebody else. We like that we're valued enough, or something that we value is valued enough that somebody else wants to carry that. The next thing it needs is intrinsic motivation. So if I'm being paid to mentor, I'm not a mentor. You have to be doing it simply because you want to do it. And the example I give is, if I said, hey, Pete, would you like to go volunteer at a soup kitchen, giving out food and beverage to hungry, thirsty people? You might say yes. Now, imagine you're on your way to the soup kitchen to deliver food and beverage to hungry, thirsty people. And I say, hey, Pete, take a left. I want you to go to Starbucks and volunteer your time there instead. Well, that's going to have a whole different feeling, even though you're giving food and beverage to hungry, thirsty people for free. And that's what we need with mentoring. And we do this all the time. We're all very helpful to others. We want to be, we like it. We get a good feeling from it. We also need to have a meaningful connection. So a lot of people will say to me, oh my gosh, I have this toxic mentor. The person's horrible. How do I deal with it? But that's not a mentor. You have to like the person. They have to like you. It's kind of like a friend. If you have some friend who is mean to you, they're not your friend. So you need that meaningful connection. You also need trust. So Pete, if you were a boss of mine and I had an issue where I didn't know how to do something at work, I might wonder if I could go to you and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you guide me through this? Because I might think, wow, he's going to find out I don't know what I'm doing and he'll never give me a raise or a promotion. So likewise, if I was your mentee and you said, I'm not going to share my knowledge and value expertise with her, she's going to go start her own company with that. You have to trust me, but that has to go in both directions. And finally, there has to be a goal. A lot of people think I'm just going to meet with somebody for an hour every week, and I'm just going to meet with them and somehow I'll get mentorship. Mentorship is an exchange of something with a goal. So it'd be like, can you tell me the lay of the land at work? Or I'm a hardware engineer. Can you, software engineer, help me solve a problem that I need to have that involved with it? It's combining that. So as long as it has all 5 of those, it's mentorship. If it's missing one, it's not. It's like baking brownies without sugar. It'll look like it, but won't taste like it.
Okay. Well, so understood that those are the components that exist within that. And so I'm hearing you that those 5 ingredients can be present in all sorts of relationships, interactions, as opposed to formal, career, professional, I want to sharpen my skills in digital advertising, whatever, exchanges.
It can be in all of those.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to you and I say, I'll give you an example. Irene Yakbis she worked for NASA. She pushed the launch button on the mission to Mercury. She's an aerospace engineer. She's smart. She went to work for IBM and she walked in and she said it was like going to the first day of middle school. Who do you eat with? Where do you go? What do you do? So this very smart person was looking for, I don't even know where the bathroom is here. Yeah. And so she said, I just need to know the lay of the land here. And so somebody at her office was giving a talk in her first week and said, if anybody'd like a mentor, reach out to me. So Irene called me and she said, I can't reach out to her. I'm too intimidated. I'm brand new here. And I was like, what are you talking about? Just email her. And she did. And she said, I just need to know the lay of the land. Can you help me out with that? And the person said yes. They met for 15 minutes and that led to a 4-year mentorship. So that does apply. The person liked Irene. Irene liked her. It ended up that all 5 of those components were met. We just don't think about those components when we're reaching out to somebody. But she didn't say to her, hey, mentor me. She came with a specific goal.
Understood. And I think that's just going through those ingredients, I think might spark some ideas for people here. It's like, hey, well, you know what? I've got a sense of meaningful connection and trust with this person who knows some stuff that I need to know. Oh, why the heck don't I just go ahead and reach out?
It's the same as when we make friends. You don't have to go through your thing and say, does that person share my values? No, you could have 10 people that cross your path and there's one that you say, ooh, I like that person. I'm going to hang out with that person. If you were to dissect that, you'd find out that you have criteria that you're checking off to see if it matched for that. So that's all that I'm saying with this checklist that is for mentoring.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you've said that about half of young professionals say they feel kind of lost in their careers. What do we think is behind this? And how does mentoring play in?
I think that most people that I've talked to say they're intimidated and they think that mentoring is only hierarchical. They have also said to me that they are looking for somebody who's going to open the doors and lift them up into the new job they want. That's too vague. If I said to somebody, I want you to solve all the problems that I don't even know I have, there's an issue. So people come to me and they'll say, can you be my mentor? And I'll say, sure. What in? How? What would you like me to help you with? And they say, I don't know. And then I have to say, well, okay, what are some of your goals? I'm not sure. And so all I say to people who are starting out is have a tiny ask, one small ask. So if somebody like Irene said, can you show me the lay of the land? A person could say yes or no, and that's an accomplishable goal. And within that very first moment, you can determine, is this somebody I could mentor or be mentored by? You can feel each other out. So start with something super, super small. You could ask a person, hey, I would love to learn an aspect of the job that you do in advertising. I think that I could learn from you. Can I just ask you a few questions? And you just have something that could take maybe 5 minutes, and then you can take it from there. That person may or may not be the person that's best for you. And the other thing is I tell people you do not have to look hierarchically up the ladder. That's very limited. You only have a certain number of people who are directly above you. But if you look to your left and to your right, you have countless people who can help you. And if I look at all of the cases of the people who are like famous lateral mentors, that's the founding fathers of the United States. Nobody was the boss. Every entrepreneur who starts a company, they can't look up. They have to look to their left or to their right. Steve Jobs looked to Steve Wozniak as a lateral mentor. All of these cases are people who didn't look hierarchically for help. So anybody who's starting out, if you're feeling vulnerable, insecure, look to your left or to your right, somebody in a different department, and you can ask them questions. You can say, hey, from an outside perspective, what do you see as a path for me in my department? Do you have any tips or pointers for working within my department and this new job that I have? That's something that people can do very easily. And I'll give you one more quick example. I was speaking with an Iowa federal judge, and he was saying, look, judges can't be vulnerable. You can't say, hey, I don't know how to handle that case. I don't know what to do. That's not going to work well. So lateral mentoring was something that was really important to this group of federal judges. So what they did was they put in an informal lunch, and everybody got to come in and sit next to somebody. So somebody was able to say, hey, Bob, you handled that case. How did you do that? Now, that's not a person saying, I don't know what I'm doing. That's a person saying, how did you handle something? And then that person was able to start without showing a vulnerability, but they saw an incredible increase in mentorship that was happening laterally because it removed that vulnerability. So if you're starting out, think about the power that is to the left or to the right of you, where you're not worried about somebody feeling like you're stepping on their toes. They're competing for your job. They're not competing for a promotion from you. They're going to share very readily with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I'm thinking now about my podcast mastermind group, and they're wonderful. All been guests on the show. And it's interesting about the lateral piece is that I wouldn't say any of us is like the top dog, it's sort of like, it's clear that all of us have our respective strengths and areas where we're excelling, and others can learn from each other there. And it's really quite lovely because in the course of sharing, we discover stuff. It's like, hey, you seem to know a lot about how these advertising is working. And you seem to have a really engaged, growing program over here. And we're all able to share the goodies. And especially over time, when you talk about trust, is you realize just how much of our hangups are emotionally driven and irrational. It's like, oh, I should maybe just chill out about that. Oh, okay. I'll just stop worrying and give it a shot. How about that? So many breakthroughs boil down to that.
Absolutely. I love the example that you brought up because so many of us join groups. There are people who join book clubs. We're all joiners, right? People join all kinds of things. That's a great place to find mentorship. Most of us think that if we're in the job, we have to find our mentor in our job. But I'm going to give you a quick example of a workplace where somebody who was new at their job came in and they said, uh-oh, and they got mentorship. So this guy, Steve, was at his job and he had a boss who gave him an impossible task with a super short deadline. And Steve didn't know what he's doing. But Steve was like, I got it. When the boss came in and said, hey, do you know what, can you get this done? So the boss came in a couple of days later and was like, Steve, you haven't made any progress. And Steve was like, don't you worry. I got it. He was afraid he was going to get fired. So he didn't ever tell his boss, I don't know what I'm doing. And when I talk to people, everybody's been there at some point where you're like, okay, I can do this. So what happened was the next day the boss came in and he's like, listen, you either got this or you don't. What's the deal here? So Steve said, I told you I got it. I do. His boss left and he immediately called his friend Steve and he's like, Steve, can you help me? I don't know what I'm doing. I know that you know this different kind of engineering than I know. Can you come in and help? And so Steve said, yeah, I'll come in after work. I got to finish my job and then I'll come in and help you. So in he comes, everybody's gone in the workplace, but he comes in and they work together. And Steve's like, oh my gosh, thank you, Steve, for coming. This is so helpful. I'm making progress here. Keep teaching me what you know. So they made a lot of progress. The boss comes in the next day and was like, Steve, I can't believe all the progress he made. And he said, I told you, I knew what I was doing. And long story short, they work together and the project gets done a week earlier than expected. And the boss came and said, I can't believe you did this a week earlier than was expected. That job was Atari. The boss was Al Alcorn. The engineer that didn't know what he was doing was Steve Jobs. And the person who helped him was Steve Wozniak. That very first project was Breakout, the first video game. Mm-hmm. And that was lateral mentoring. Steve didn't feel comfortable in his own job. He was brand new. He thought he was going to get fired if he didn't do this. So he called his friend, Steve, who worked in a completely different area. And that was lateral mentoring. And so when you're in the workplace, you do not have to think of the workplace as your only way to find a solution to what you need or the mentoring that you need to get.
Oh, I like that a lot. Thank you. So let's hear on the other side of things. You talked about generativity, and that is just sort of a human developmental thing. I don't know if there's a particular age or years in the career or threshold in which this kind of kicks into higher gear, but tell us a bit about that and where to proceed with it.
So generativity is a life stage, just like walking, any physical life stage that we have. And it kicks in specifically at its highest point in midlife. So between 40 and 65, you should really see people ramping up. You'll see things like people say, I'm going to start a blog. I'm going to start a podcast, because that's a form of mentorship. It's a modern form of mentorship. So you, Pete, are mentoring right now in a modern way. So people will start to kick in to doing that. They get an itch to give back. And so those are some of the ways that we see people doing that in midlife. But the reason we have that is because you reach midlife. All prior to midlife, you've had boxes to check off that other people put in front of you. Finish school, maybe go to college, get a house, buy a car, get married, have a family. have a career, get advanced in your career, become an expert in something. All of these things are outside external kind of boxes that we check. Then midlife hits and you're like, I get to pick my own boxes. What am I going to check? And that's when it hits us and we say, do I matter in the world? What's my footprint doing? How deep is it? And what do I want that footprint to look like? And it's this first moment that we have the time to do that. And we have the bandwidth to do this. So that's why there's a pretty big window for that. So you could be 40 and say, I am not there. I'm really busy. It could be between 40 and 65 that it really hits for people. And that's when people are looking to give back their expertise, their values, their traditions, their usefulness to others. It makes them feel relevant. It makes them feel useful. It makes them feel like they matter in the world. They didn't just take up space. And so that's what generativity is all about. So if you're looking at somebody in midlife, that is a great person to look to mentor you because they're probably looking to mentor someone.
And if we are in that stage and we're feeling those things, what do you recommend we go do?
That you look within yourself and say, what is it that I think is important to me? Some people will say, well, it's the things that are in my personal life. Some people will say, I want to pass on the traditions and values that I hold dear in my family. And that could be religion. It could be your, traditions that are in your family. It could be values. It could be that you say, I want to be remembered or known for this expertise that I had. So whatever that is, it could be different for every single person. And that expertise is all you have to tap into. And most people think, well, it has to be something really profound. And it's not. It's the little things that we do. So the very first thing I say to people is show up. Just show up in places, because that's your opportunity to find out what you'd like to give back. And showing up is like the first beginning step of mentorship. So that can be a value. If someone is in need and they're in the hospital, show up, go visit them. That's a form of saying, you matter, I care for you. If you make an appointment on somebody's calendar, show up. If you're going to go to a funeral, show up. All of these things that maybe we say to ourselves, I don't know if it really matters. It does. That's the very first thing that you can do that costs nothing and doesn't require you to have a degree or anything else. It's just showing up. And then that's going to be the first step of making the mentorship happen.
Mm-hmm. And what's next?
So once you've showed up, the next thing is that you want to see if you make a connection with somebody. Is there somebody who you can see wants what you have? So if I have an expertise in something and I go to give it to you, let's say my expertise is in, crocheting. I'm a master crocheter. And I say, hey, Pete, I'd like to teach you how to crochet and you have no interest in crocheting. Well, that first step is, okay, we don't have it. But if I meet somebody else and they say, I've always been wanting to learn how to crochet, then there we go. It's the same with if you go into work and you're looking for somebody, you're showing up to things, you go onto the big Zoom, you're at the water cooler, you're at the lunch, you're at the grand rounds if you're in a hospital, wherever you are, you're showing up. Who is it that looks like they're receptive to what you need? And then you're basically finding that person. Hey, does this interest you? No? Okay, next. Now, who's out there looking for that? It's the same as when you're podcasting and you're putting something out there. Not everybody's going to resonate, but those that do, and they say, I'm going to come back over and over again, those are your meaningful connections. So the next step is really connecting with people who out here is looking for what I have. It's developing the trust by continuing to show up, and it's engaging with that individual to see if you can make change for them.
Yes. And it really is a beautiful, as I'm just imagining this and I'm reflecting on experiences I've had, it really is a beautiful, human, heartfelt, deep, emotional, good thing. It's like right up there. And I'm thinking about, I've heard in academic scholarship circles, and maybe you can comment on this, good doctor, that sometimes when folks retire, a beautiful gift they receive is sort of like the grand tree that shows their mentees, proteges, doctoral candidates that they brought up, who in turn brought up the next generation and the next generation. You can just sort of see the lineage flowing through and rippling out as just like a top retirement gift for folks in that zone. I've heard this is a thing that has happened on multiple occasions. So I was like, that sounds like about the top thing you would want at your retirement party.
Yes. We all want to feel a sense of legacy, and we start to build our legacy as early as we can think. We're building how we're going to be remembered by others. And that tree that you're talking about is incredibly important. So the term legacy tree was coined by Bob Lefkowitz. He's a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry from 2012. And he wanted to know, why am I a Nobel Prize winner and not somebody else? He was like, I was born in the Bronx. What made me stand out from anybody else? I'm not smarter than other people. What is it? So he decided to make a legacy tree for himself that showed all the mentors above him, those that were on his level, and the mentees, very few, because most of us don't even realize when we're mentoring that we're below him. And he published it in a journal. And 2 weeks later, he went to a conference and somebody came up to him and he said, "Hey, Bob, I'm 6 degrees Lefkowitz." And he was, "What are you talking about?" And the guy said, "Hey, there are 5 people who've worked between you and me. And here I am continuing the work that you started." And Bob said, "What are you talking about? Tell me about your work." He told him about his work, and he was able to hear his own words spoken by this person he had never met. And he was able to see how his work had snowballed out 6 degrees away from him. And he said he'd never felt more profound emotion than the birth of his children and getting married than at that moment, because he knew that he mattered and he knew he had a legacy. So that academic legacy, the tree that you talk about, that's what we're trying to build. And if we are able to create our own legacy trees, we're able to see what our impact is and see what our legacy actually is. And that's very meaningful to us. Most of us aren't able to harness that. It's kind of like when you donate and you don't remember you donated anything until tax time, and you have to go through your tax return and say, "Oh yeah, I know I donated this." We forget all of the good things that we do, all the volunteering, all the philanthropy, all of the mentoring that we do throughout the year. And it just gets kind of folded into our everyday life. So if we can acknowledge the moments that we mentor, or we acknowledge the moments that we've been mentored, and we thank the people that have mentored us, it makes us do it more, and it ties it back to legacy so that we then can feel our impact. We can actually get that feeling that we want. That's kind of like the Grinch whose heart grew 3 times in size. That's how we feel when we start to really acknowledge our legacy.
Ooh, yeah. Man, you're right. That profound emotional thing, you're bringing me back. This was years ago, but I remember when I was in college, I had a couple buddies and we started an accountability group where we just sort of challenged each other on a weekly, regular basis. Hey, did you do those things that you talked about? And in so doing, we built some really good habits and saw some cool results. And one of them, his name is Jeremy. And I said, "You know what? I know Nike doesn't recruit on our campus, but you should just go for it and apply for an internship." And so he did. And he's still working there. It's a long career at Nike. He's loving it. And then I visited him out there in Oregon, and I met people that he had formed another accountability group with. And I'd written down some of the principles that we were operating with. And so they too were seeing really cool results and good habits and things in their world. And it really was tremendously powerful. Some stuff I did has impacted Jeremy, who was in Oregon, partially because I said, go for that internship. And then here's more people that Jeremy is in a group with, seeing awesome things. And it is among the top meaningful, feel-good, emotional vibes around.
It sure is, because you mattered. And there's nothing we need to know we mattered. That's why if we look at social media, those likes mean something to us. We need to feel like we matter. So even if those are throwaway things in certain areas, it shows our craving for mattering, for relevancy, all of that. So what you just described is what we're seeking from work. We want work validation. We want all of that. That all ties in together to how our emotions are. And just the acknowledging some of it, at least allows us, like you just told this story about somebody and how that made you feel. By doing that, it makes us want to do more. It makes us say, ooh, I'm either going to do what that person did, or I'm going to translate that into something that I can do. I want that feeling again. So that's a bigger, better thing to strive for.
Beautiful. Well, Deborah, tell me any other top things you want to make sure to mention before we hear about your favorite things.
I would tell everyone, look to your left and look to your right. You're probably looking at a mentor. And if they aren't right now, you can either be mentoring them or they can be mentoring you at some point. So think of every single person you meet as a potential mentor or mentee.
Big thanks to Deborah for sharing her wisdom with us. And big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out. One sponsored checkout is Quince. Quince clothing looks and feels great at an impressive price. Quince's holiday season lineup is simple and smart, including $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters and stylish, durable wool coats. Quince partners directly with ethical factories and top artisans, so they cut out the middlemen to deliver premium quality at half the cost of other high-end brands. That means you get to give luxury quality without having to stomach the luxury price tag. I have been loving my Quince red cashmere beanie cap. It holds up super well for cashmere and really for anything. There's no holes, there's no snags, there's no tears. It is so soft, toasty, warm, and delightful. I'm wearing it this very moment, in fact, because I usually am. So give and get timeless holiday staples that last this season with Quince. Go to quince.com/awesome for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/awesome. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/awesome. One sponsored checkout is my other company, Cashflow Podcasting. If you've ever considered launching a podcast to support your business or personal brand, or you already have one, my biased opinion is that Cashflow Podcasting is the very finest firm to handle your content. That silky smooth audio you hear from me and my guests comes from the fine audio engineers at Cashflow Podcasting. They offer great quality at a reasonable price. Fun fact, even if your audience is tiny, having a podcast dramatically increases the chance that valuable strangers will spend 30 plus minutes chatting with you. Our clients have seen tremendous business results from their podcasts by building new relationships, trust, and revenue. Cashflow Podcasting walks you through every step of a podcast launch and gives each episode a rigorous 25-point quality control review, and clients receive unlimited ongoing coaching support. So if you're at all podcast curious, I'd love to have a 10-minute zero-pressure chat to be of service. Snag a time with me at awesomeatyourjob.com/chat. That's awesomeatyourjob.com/CHAT.
This message comes from Capital One. With the Spark Cash Plus card from Capital One, you earn unlimited 2% cash back on every purchase and get big purchasing power so your business can spend more and earn more. Stephen, Brandon, and Bruno, the business owners of SandCloud, reinvested their 2% cash back to help build the company's retail presence. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Find out more at CapitalOne.com/SparkCashPlus. Terms apply.
Well, now could you share a favorite quote, something you find inspiring?
I think the favorite quote is, mentors change lives, mentors change the world. And I think that it's because that really is true.
And a favorite book?
My favorite book has always been Marie Curie, her autobiography, because she was somebody who did something that was completely new and unique and kept following her passion, even though it was at a time when it was very difficult and women weren't in leadership positions, and she just did it.
All right. And a favorite tool, something you use to be awesome at your job?
I'm old school. I use this.
Okay. Notebook.
And that I've never given up. I would suggest to anybody that structure is such an important part of our work day. Whatever modern tools you can use to get that, use it. It makes a difference, because each one of these things that you can check off makes you feel like a winner throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. And a favorite habit?
I think that my favorite habit is walking every single day.
Lovely. And is there a key nugget you share that really connects and resonates with folks? You hear them quoting it back to you often?
I hear people talking about look to your left, look to your right. Lateral mentoring is something that has resonated with individuals, and I get that over and over again.
All right. And if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where would you point them?
I'd point them to my website, deborahheiser.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I write for Psychology Today. You can find me there. I have a Substack, The Right Side of 40, and you can find my book, The Mentorship Edge, anywhere you get books.
All right. Deborah, thank you.
Thank you.
I was so moved by what Deborah had to say with regard to reflecting on the legacy we're leaving, the people we're impacting is indeed deeply meaningful and just makes you want to do more of it. It is such a beautiful thing and so touching and something that's very easy to blow right past in the midst of getting stuff done and moving on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Great stuff from Deborah. If you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to items that we've referenced, please drop on by awesomeatyourjob.com/EP1109. Hope to catch you next time, and peace.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.